Great. Good morning, everyone. I hope you are all well. If you could be completely free, what would that look like? Picture it for me for a second. Freedom from having to go to school each and every day. Freedom from exams that might be coming up. Freedom from the dreaded alarm clock. Freedom from having to keep your bedroom clean. 2 of my children are having to do that this afternoon. Freedom from bills, freedom from pressure. Freedom might be finally being free from anxiety or free from guilt or habits you can't seem to break, or maybe even free from other people. We all love the idea of freedom. Songs have been written about it. Films are made about it. Wars are fought for it. We cheer for it. I think we feel it in our bones if we watch Braveheart when Mel Gibson is there yelling, "Freedom!" Or when Andy Dufresne has crawled through a sewage pipe to find freedom from Shawshank State Prison. Can you just turn this page? Thank you. And yet, if we're honest, we don't feel very free very much of the time, do we? Some people are trapped by expectations. Some feel trapped by past mistakes. Some feel maybe trapped by addiction or fear or by trying to impress everybody else, or just the drudgery of day-to-day life. So here's the question that sits underneath everything this morning. Where do we find real freedom? How do we get it? In the bit of the Bible that was read for us, in the Gospel of John, chapter 8, Jesus speaks about freedom in a way that I think turns our assumptions upside down. He says, if you hold to my teaching, you are really my disciples. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Very truly, I tell you, everyone who sins is a slave to sin. So if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. Freedom is real, it exists, and Jesus shows us three big truths about freedom. Where to find freedom, what we are freed from, and what we are freed into. So let's start with the first. Where do we find true freedom? Jesus says in verse 32, "You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." Now, I think when we hear about the truth, we think about facts. Let's see if you know some facts. Shout out the answer. 2 + 2 equals? That was very quick over there. The capital of France is? The temperature water boils at is? 100 Celsius. See, we know lots of facts. But Jesus isn't talking about correct information. He's not saying, if you pass a Bible exam, you will be free. Look carefully at verse 31. If you hold to my teaching, then you will know the truth. The word know here doesn't mean a bunch of information. It means knowing Jesus. It means a relationship. I'm sorry, I do need the... This is the last time, I promise. Later, in this same book of the Bible, Jesus says, I am the way and the truth and the life. Truth isn't just something that Jesus teaches. Truth is someone. Truth is Jesus himself. So freedom isn't found in knowing ideas about Jesus. Freedom is found in knowing Jesus. Now at this point, you might have noticed that I'm stuck a little bit. I'm wearing this thing. I've been strapped into this jacket, arms crossed, buckle tight, strapped secure. Now suppose I was to say to you, I am completely free. I am so free right now. I am the freest person on the whole planet. You'd be forgiven for looking at me and thinking, what are you on about? No, you're not. Why? Because even if I believe I am free, even if I shout, I am free, the reality is obvious. I can't move my arms, and it's getting quite annoying. I am restricted. It doesn't matter how sincere I am. If I'm strapped in, I'm strapped in. My arms can't really move. Freedom isn't defined by how we feel. Someone isn't free because they think they're free. Freedom is defined by reality. Now, Jesus says the truth sets you free. And he is saying something huge. Without him, we are not as free as we think we are. Because, TV, songs, movies, and books and things, they tell us what they think freedom means. It means do what you want. It means be true to yourself. Follow your heart. Define your own truth. You do you. But Jesus says freedom doesn't come from inventing your own truth. Freedom comes from knowing the truth, and that truth is him. True freedom comes from knowing the person of Jesus. Now, I know, I'm going to pick someone I'm going to trust here. I know Pete here quite well. I don't know Pete quite well. I know Kevin here quite well. Kevin, up you come. And because I know Kevin quite well, I know that if I ask Kevin, could you just undo some of these straps for me? No. Wonderful. Thank you, Kevin. Get this silly thing off. So I know Kevin, and I am known by Kevin. And because I know him, I was able to ask him to free my arms from that. Oh, that's so much better. I can move, I can wave my arms. My freedom from that thing didn't come from me knowing all about that jacket, knowing where the things were tied. It didn't come from me trying really hard and doing it myself. I'm not Harry Houdini. I found freedom from being tied in that by knowing Kevin and being known by Kevin and asking him to set me free. And that is a bit like how Jesus says we can find freedom. Not by trying hard and doing it all ourselves. We find true freedom in knowing Jesus, and he will set us free. We're going to take a pause there for a little bit, but when we come back, we're going to find out what it is Jesus frees us from, and really importantly, what it is he frees us into. James. Great, so we have seen how it is only by knowing Jesus that we can find true freedom. But what is it we are freed from? Because it's not being freed from homework or bills or stressful conversations with family members. Verse 34 of our passage says this: "Very truly I tell you, everyone who sins is a slave to sin." That is strong language. It's not everyone who sins struggles with sin, or even everyone who sins is influenced by their sin. The word used is slave. When we talk about slave, I want you to picture these chains. I got these from the BBC's History of the World in 100 Objects. These are chains that were used by actual slaves. I want you to picture these slaves. These are a symbol of them. The slaves were unable to make decisions for themselves, no longer in control of what they were doing. So picture those when we think of slaves. Jesus says that everyone who sins is a slave to sin. And the people listening to Jesus were offended. They said, "We've never been slaves," which historically, not true. They absolutely had been slaves in the past. But really, they're talking spiritually, and spiritually, they believed they were fine. That's the problem. Slavery for them is the most dangerous when we don't realize we've been enslaved. Let's think about this carefully. What does Jesus mean by sin? Sin is not just breaking a bunch of rules. Sin is not just being naughty. Sin is choosing to live life with me in God's place, with me at the center. It's saying, I will decide what is right. I will decide what matters. I will decide who I am. I don't need God telling me what to do. I don't need God. And Jesus says something very honest about the human heart. He says when we live like that, we don't become more free, we become enslaved. Think with me about anger. At first, you think you control it. You're kind of annoyed, but you've got it under control. And then someone says something that really grinds your gears, and you explode. How dare you? Who is in control then? Think about lying. At first, it's one small lie. I didn't take that cake. Then you need another lie to cover it. I was sat here the whole time. And then another, I don't even like cake. And suddenly the lie controls you. Or think about needing approval. You tell yourself, I don't care what people think. But your mood rises and falls entirely on likes or comments or praise or criticism. Is that freedom or is that chains? Sin promises freedom, but delivers slavery. It says this will make you happy, this will make you powerful, this will make you secure. But over time, it tightens and it binds. You can still move a little, you can shuffle around, but you can't escape. You are trapped in it, like I was trapped in that jacket. And the frightening part, we often defend our chains. But Jesus says everyone who sins is a slave to sin. Not some people, not especially bad people, everyone. And that includes the respectable, the church-going, the successful, those who look really good and nice, like they would never be nasty to anyone. Sin isn't just what we do, it is a power that grips us, and no one can unbuckle themselves. We were, all of us, slaves to that sin. Now here's where Jesus turns everything upside down. A bunch of people think becoming Christians means losing freedom. I'd have to give up things. I'd have to follow rules. I'd lose control. But Jesus says the opposite. He says without Jesus, we have no control. We are slaves. But he can and will set us free. Verses 35 and 36. Have a look down with me. Now a slave has no permanent place in the family, but a son belongs to it forever. So if the son sets you free, you will be free indeed. And it's beautiful. He moves from slavery-type language to family-type language. From chains to a house key. A slave works in the house, but they don't belong there. They sleep in the servants' quarters. They eat after everyone else. They worry about being sent away. But a son belongs. A son runs through the front door. A son opens the fridge without asking. A son sits at the table. A son knows this is my home. A son has a key. Jesus says, when you trust me, you don't lose freedom, but you leave slavery and you come home. You belong to the family. You become like a son. You lose the chains and you get a front door key. Freedom in Jesus is not do whatever you want. It is better. It is freedom. Freedom from guilt, from having to prove yourself, from being defined by your worst mistake, from being controlled by destructive patterns, from fear of rejection by God. It's freedom from all that, and it's freedom into knowing God as Father. It's freedom into security and belonging. It's freedom into a new identity and freedom into a new power to change. Think of a fish. Has anyone got a pet fish? Some of you have a pet fish. Charlie's got a pet fish. Now, a fish might, if it could talk, say, I want freedom from water. But out of water, it flops around for a while, and eventually it dies. So don't do that, Charlie. For fish, water isn't a restriction, it is life. It can only survive for a very short amount of time without it, and then it dies. We were made to live in relationship with God. That is where we are meant to be. That is who we are meant to be. And outside of that, we suffocate, and eventually we die. Inside it, we flourish. Inside it, we can be the people we were made to be. Jesus doesn't remove your personality, he restores it. He doesn't crush joy, he deepens it. He doesn't reduce life, he enlarges it. So how does he do all that? How does he take us from chains to a front door key? Later in this gospel, later in the book of John, we discover that Jesus goes to his death on the cross. Because slavery to sin carries consequences. Justice matters, evil matters. Sin does have to be dealt with. But instead of leaving us trapped, bound up in chains, and heading for death, Jesus steps in. He takes the penalty, he pays the cost, he absorbs that judgment. So the chains can be removed. He undoes the buckles of the jacket, if you'd like to go back to that. He walks in with authority. He didn't say try harder, or wriggle a bit more, you'll get there, or improve yourself and maybe I'll help. He undoes the straps one by one. That is what Jesus does. And the passage says, when he sets you free, you are free indeed. Completely and totally free. Now, I imagine some of us here wouldn't yet call ourselves Christians. Maybe you're curious or cautious or skeptical. But let me gently ask you, are you as free as you think you are? Is there anything that controls you, a pattern you can't break, a guilt you can't shape, a fear that shapes decisions? Jesus did not come to take freedom away from people. He came to set them free. But do notice verse 31, if you hold to my teaching. We can be free if we trust Jesus. if we step forward and ask him to set us free, if we listen to what God's word has to say and give ourselves totally to Jesus, not to try to do it all ourselves, entrusting ourselves to him, holding to him, belonging to him. And when you do, you don't become smaller or more restricted, you become free. If you'd like to know more, here's a couple of things you can do. We will have a Hope Explored course starting very soon. There's some cards for that around at the back. Do grab one of those. Do come on Hope Explored, and we'll there explore the hope of the freedom that is offered there. Hope Explored will be a great time. Do keep coming on Sundays. Every Sunday we meet here to find out more about Jesus and the great freedom that he offers. You could read the Bible with someone who is a Christian. Meet one-to-one. Just say to a Christian friend, will you read this with me? They would be delighted to say, yes, I would. Explore what Jesus has to say for yourselves. Now let me speak for a moment to those of us who already call ourselves Christians. It is possible to be free and still live as if we are chained. It is possible to have been released and yet still sit in a prison cell with the door wide open. Sometimes we slip back into slave thinking. We might find ourselves thinking that God's love rises and falls with our performance. We think one bad week has put us on probation. We think we must impress him and tidy ourselves up for him to love us. But listen again to Jesus. If the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. Not partly free, not temporarily free, not conditionally free. Free indeed. If the Son has set you free, you are free indeed. That means your guilt has been fully dealt with by Jesus on the cross. That means your record is not hanging over you. Your place in the family is secure. You're not a servant on trial. You're a son or daughter at home. And here's the wonder. Your freedom is not fragile because it doesn't depend on you. It doesn't depend on me. It depends on the Son, on Jesus. My freedom is not reliant on me or my performance a single bit. It is all reliant on Jesus and what Jesus has already done on the cross. And nothing at all will ever change that. Jesus doesn't unlock my chains and then stand back nervously to see if I'll manage. He brings us into the house. He sits you at the table. He says, you belong here. You're not a servant on probation. You are family. The Christian life is not a tighter straitjacket. It is the deep breath of fresh air you can take when the straps fall away. It is stepping into the sunlight after being in the gloom. It is standing upright having been bent over a desk for ages. We are not trying to become free. We are living in the freedom already given to us. So lift your head, stop staring at these chains on the floor, and look to Jesus who broke the chains. Let's come back to that straitjacket one last time. Imagine the straps have been undone. They fall loose. Arms that were pinned are now open. A chest that was constricted can now breathe deeply. You stretch. You move. You are free. Now imagine the one who freed you standing in front of you. He doesn't just toss you a key. He stepped in. He took your place. He bore the cost of your slavery. That is what Jesus has done. Freedom is not found in self-expression or unlimited choice or throwing off every boundary. Freedom is found in Jesus Christ, the Son who speaks truth into our confusion, the Son who breaks the power of sin, the Son who brings us to the Father and says, you belong here. And when you see that, when it truly sinks in, I think your heart begins to soar. Because this freedom isn't cheap. It cost Jesus his very life. He came for us. He loved us. He gave himself for us so that we could stand up, breathe deeply, and live fully and freely as children in his house. If the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. It's not a slogan or a soundbite. That is a promise. And so the right response is not, mild appreciation. It is wonder. It is praise. It is worship. Because we are not merely improved people. We are liberated people, rescued and adopted. So let your heart rise, let your gratitude swell, let your joy deepen. The Son has set us free. And in him, truly, deeply, eternally, we are free indeed. Let me pray, and then I'll hand back to James. Father God, thank you so much for Jesus. Thank you for all he did on the cross to set us free. Father, help us to properly thank and praise and worship Jesus for who he is, for what he has done. Father, help us to live as the free members of your family that we are. Amen.